The last piece of our skill training is trajectory control. Now with trajectory control, we need to learn how to hit the ball both lower and higher than normal. It's going to benefit us really in two different ways. When we go play golf, there's going to be certain shots where we have to hit lower, whether it's windy out underneath a tree, and likewise, we need to be able to hit the ball higher than normal in certain circumstances. Now, skill-wise, also the benefit of being able to hit the ball different trajectories, hit it lower and higher than normal, is it becomes a lot easier for your brain then to find middle ground. Let's talk about how we're going to hit the ball lower and higher, and let's also talk about how we're going to practice it. So for the first shot, if we wanted to go from a normal trajectory shot into a lower trajectory shot, how would we do that? There's a couple key setup pieces here. If I were to take my normal setup position, which would be the golf ball in the middle of my stance pretty much 50-50, weight and body in the middle, that would lead to a normal trajectory. Now, if I wanted to go lower, I'd do two key things at setup. Number one, I would take the golf ball from the middle of my stance to slightly farther back in my stance, a little bit more towards my right foot, probably halfway between the middle of my stance and my right foot for a stock lower trajectory. Now I'm going to put the ball back. I'm also going to change where my weight is in my feet and my stance. Again, here's a stock stance, ball, middle, weight 50-50. I have the golf ball back. Now instead of being 50-50, I'm going to go ahead and put more weight into my left leg, put more weight into my left foot, even get my body leaning a little bit more forward. Both of these pieces make it easier for me to hit that lower trajectory shot. Ball back, more of me, more weight forward. Now, in swing, there's two main influencers of trajectory that are going to help lower the launch of the golf ball. The first part is angle of attack. When I make a swing, the more downward my angle of attack is, the steeper that my descent is of my club head into the golf ball, the lower I'm going to launch the ball. I'm going to say that one more time. It's very important. The more my club head works downward, the more I hit down on the ball, the lower it launches. I don't need to hit down to make it go up. That's false. I hit down to launch lower. That's a key point. Angle of attack dictates it, but also dynamic loft dictates it. So I have a 5-iron here. If I took my normal loft on my club, obviously if I add loft to that club, if I were to add loft to my 5-iron, the ball would launch higher. If I took loft off of that club, or I turned that 5-iron into a 4-iron or 3-iron, the golf ball would launch lower. So for me to hit the ball lower, ball's back in my stance, weight is a little bit more forward, I want to really make sure I'm hitting down on the golf ball. It's part of why I put it back in the stance. And I really want to take the loft off. I want to have my handle much more forward than normal. I want to have me and my weight forward. Those are the key principles to hitting the ball lower. Now in practice, I have a little station set up with a hula hoop and sticks to show me and help practice where I actually hit the golf ball. In the beginning of practice, I'm going to go through those pieces and I'm going to try and launch some pretty low. Now I have this set up where it's a normal to low trajectory. I'm going to try and hit it underneath that hula hoop, which is going to be slightly difficult, but really emphasize the low piece. If you don't have this set up, still the visual of having something in front, you want to hit through rings or a bar or circle. Imagine you're hitting underneath a tree with this low version. So let's go ahead and try the low one. Golf ball's back in my stance. I have my weight forward compared to normal, body leaning a little bit forward. I'm going to really try and hit down on the golf ball. I'm going to try and take that loft of the club way down to start that launch. Here we go. Ball's back, weight is forward. Again, I'm going to do like a half, maybe a 3/4 swing. Ball back, weight forward. Here I'm going to hit down and de-loft it. And there's my low trajectory shot. So that ball launches very low off of the face. Now, what about if I wanted to do the opposite here, okay? Well, the opposite is true of what we just talked about. If I want to hit the golf ball much higher in the air instead of that low shot, what am I going to do? Well, I want to do some key setup fundamentals as well. If my low shot, I said the ball was back, weight forward, me forward, well, I want the opposite of that for the high shot. Instead of having my ball position in the middle, I want to have the ball position a little bit forward of middle, maybe halfway between the middle of my stance and my left foot. That's part number one. Now, I don't want to change the weight drastically on this high shot because I want to keep the integrity of contact. Obviously, if I move my weight way to my right foot to help do this, it increases the odds of fat and thin shots. So I'm gonna probably stay pretty 50-50. I might just add a little bit more on my right side, maybe add a little bit more access to a little bit to help here. Those would be my two key setup fundamentals. Ball a little more forward, a little bit to the right. Now in swing, we said angle of attack, or the approach of the club to the ball, is part number one. If I hit really far down on the golf ball and that launches it low, the opposite of that is true. If I hit very level or hit hardly down at all, really pick the ball off the ground, very shallow angle of attack would launch the golf ball the highest. Also the loft we mentioned, on a low shot, I'd have the loft tilted down. I'd hit a very low de-lofted shot. On the high shot, I want more loft. I want as much loft as possible. I want at least that 5-iron loft, maybe more. So, same thing here with my hula hoop. Now, instead of trying to hit through it, I'm gonna actually try and hit over it with this shot. So I'm gonna do my setup pieces, ball positions forward of normal. My weight's 50-50, maybe slightly on my right side. I'm gonna keep loft, maybe add a little bit of loft here. And I really feel like I pick that ball off of the ground and hit this up over this hula hoop here. So here's the high version. So that was a higher launch than my normal shot. And I would work these just like I work the other skill pieces, okay? Start with the low shot. If you don't get it on the first shot, that's okay. Practice that, hit several shots. Maybe we do a 10-ball test with it. Line up 10 golf balls until you can get 10 out of 10 or get closer to 10 out of 10. Do the same thing with the high shot. Have a marker in your mind. If you don't have anything out in front of you, work those pieces to hit high, X amount of 10. Work towards 10 out of 10. And again, retain those same feels. That's gonna help you get closer to neutral, but also when you go on the golf course, you'll now be able to hit those shots underneath the tree, over the tree, or attack certain pins when you go play. Use those fundamental pieces, learn this skill part, put this together with the other skill pieces. It's gonna make your mechanics that much better. You're gonna play even better golf.